Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is Ryan Saplin here, and today we're going to talk about personal relationship communication errors. And I thought I'd start with we make the mistake that we think we're right. I want to talk about this because it's just something on my mind, and I feel like I'm pretty qualified to talk about it. I've been married for 2006 already, so 11 years. And we've been together since 2000, so 17 years about. It's been a long time. And I'm thinking about like some of the mistakes I've made, and not just personal relationships with me and my wife, but also with other people, right? And maybe you can take some of my mistakes and not make them. The problem with these mistakes is that they are very difficult patterns to break. Generally, the most agreeable people, the quote unquote nicest people, the people that smile the most, the people that are most positive, the people that are cheery, good looking, and just smooth and kind tend to be the most popular. And for whatever reason, for the longest time, I have a disdain, or I say resentment, for those people because I was never one of those people. And when I say the mistake about making thinking that you're right, is that often the response that you get from other people, especially the people that you care about and love, is the correct response. And what I mean by that is that is the response that you're getting based on what you are expressing. Often it's very easy for each of us to misinterpret one another. And sometimes, I know I'm getting a little vague, but I promise you I'll clear it up. But one of the problems that we have is that we think that we're so clear. And sometimes in the process, the problem that I've had over the years is that I'm very sarcastic. I try to be witty. I try to be smart. I try to be clever. But the problem is, because this is my theory anyway, because I'm introverted, I don't have a lot of human interaction. Like, I don't desire lots of human interaction in person. So one of the things, because I don't have enough human interaction, I'm not able to sort of judge myself appropriately. And that's kind of one of the big disadvantages. Someone who's more extroverted and around people more often doesn't necessarily make them good or bad of a person or anything like that. It's just really more that they're able to get more feedback from real live people, and more of it, so you get more feedback. And for me, because I don't have how I feel lots of human contact with lots of new people, kind of what I end up doing is I have to pay attention to my pattern. So every moment of information or response I get is a more important sample size. So let me explain that. So if you are getting a constant negative response from somebody else, say your wife or your husband or your girlfriend or your kids, your parents, often the problem is you. Now, that might be hard to believe, and I'm gonna try to bring this around. But like the thing is that people pretty much care about themselves, and it's not a bad thing. It's just normal human nature. Of course, we can talk all day about how people are selfish and how people are only self-interested, but that's how we all are. Your oxygen is more important than someone else's oxygen. That's just the reality of life. And I'm saying this because if you take the time, if you can do this is very hard to do. If you can take the time to put yourself in another person's shoes and you can kind of see their point of view, you might be able to communicate more effectively. You might be able to say things in a way that is reciprocated, meaning that, because a lot of times, let's say you're having over the years, me and my wife have lots of disputes, and, yelling at kids for for being slow or not doing their homework. And often we feel so righteous in the way that we think. And, it's very hard to get out of your own head, especially when you're angry or if you feel like you're right or if you're righteous. And it takes a moment to pause and realize, look, maybe you're not right, and that's not easy to do. It's simple, especially when we're just chilling and talking about it right now. But just to give you an example, like I'm reading this book. It's called The Metaphor. Let me look it up real quick. It's called The Metaphor. I buy a lot of books on Kindle. I buy probably 2 or 3 books a week, and I read like barely a chapter. The Metaphors We Live By. And they're talking about how argument, when we argue, we're having a debate, is a fight. And you think of it like this: an argument is not a fight, or an argument is war. There you go. Argument is war. That's what they said. And often when we say argument is war, we think that, let me read some of the stuff in here. It's pretty cool, actually. We treat it as war. So argument is war. So we use that analogy often. We actually live by this analogy in our life. It says here, your claims are indefensible. So these are just analogies for what argument is. He attacked every weak point in my argument. His criticisms were right on target. I demolished his argument. I never won an argument with him. You disagree? Okay, shoot. If you use that strategy, he'll wipe you out. He shot down all my arguments. So you can see how, shooting, target, indefensible, weak points, argument is war. We actually live by that. It's almost at a very unconscious level. And because we live by, and also the other one that talks about is time is money, right? Time is money. Again, time is money. You're wasting my time because time is money. The gadget will save you hours. If you save time, you're saving money. We live by this analogy. I don't have the time to give you. I don't have the money to give you. Again, same thing. Time is money. We're living by these certain metaphors that are common within language and culture in our life, right? And we can forget it sometimes, but one of the things that makes this interesting to me, and especially this book, it talks about how when we get stuck looking at things in one frame of view, right? Because I'm talking about having you look at another person's frame of view, but the problem with that is that we all look at certain things in a way at the same way, meaning that a lot of us look at time as money and argument as war. Those are just examples that I learned in this book. We look at it that way. And we all look at it like that. But then when we talk about war, me arguing with my spouse or you arguing with your girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife, you're having a dispute. It's like a war, and it's hard to see the other side of the party, especially when you're your enemy. Just imagine this just for 1 second, look at what happened. Just look at World War II, Hitler, and Nazi, right? I mean, can you even imagine looking at the other side, right? It's kind of hard to do. I don't even know how you could do it. I mean, you can. There's a way to do it, but it's very uncomfortable, especially in that extreme circumstance. Imagining the righteous side of what it means to be on the losing side of World War II. But here's a quote from this book that I thought was really good. For example, in the midst of a heated argument, when we are intent on attacking our opponent's position and defending our own, we may lose sight of the cooperative aspects of arguing. So someone who is arguing with you can be viewed giving you his time, a valuable commodity, and an effort at mutual understanding. But when we are preoccupied with the battle aspects, we often lose sight of the cooperative aspect. So because we live by this viewpoint of the world, or arguing fact of argument is war, because we sort of live in that sort of frame, it's hard for us to see that maybe argument is also the other person giving you their time, giving you their attention, giving you their energy, seeking to try to understand the situation for themselves and for you. It's not always an easy thing to see that. And mistakes and error, like I said, mistakes and errors in communication is being able to see. The thing is, like, I always hear this a lot, in lots of books and stuff that I read. You need to see the other person's point of view, right? The other person's point of view. And I always thought that to be like impossible. Like it's really hard. It's very hard. It's like lifting deadlifting 1,000 pounds. It's like impossible, and you can never really be in someone's position. So I've always kind of wondered, like, how do you go about being able, this is driving me crazy, these notifications, put this on silent here. So it's like, it drives me crazy. Like, how does putting yourself in another person's position. It's more like that's to me that's very cliche. I hear it too often. So it's actually really more about how do you put this? Giving people a chance to be right. How about that? You know, just giving them a chance to be right. That sounds a little, might sound condescending in some ways, depending on it, but just give them a chance to be right. Even if you truly, in your hearts of deepest hearts of hearts, think that they're wrong, give them some time to be right and accept their point of view. In fact, argue for their point of view. You know, I wish I could just come up with some sort of example of some kind, you know, but like, I mean, like just, if you can just give someone the chance to be right, you're going to win the argument, you know, like there's, I mean, there really, see, again, I'm using winning the argument. I'm already automatically using argument as war analogy, but like there's no win. See, the problem is with arguing, and this is truly how I feel about arguing in this stage of my life, being 35 years old, is there are no winning and losing in arguing. There isn't. There is no winning and losing, because it's almost like there's an outcome that's positive for both, or there's an outcome that's negative for both, you know, or actually there's just an outcome that just happens. And when you have an outcome that, if there's no winning, there's no fighting, you know, it's really just more about, you know, because the reality is, like, look at it this way. If you got all your way, every single way, but the other person gets screwed over, how's that even going to feel good for you? I mean, you know, you're a good human being. You know, if you're a good human being and you feel like a necessity to be fair with people, and not just be fair, but have the other person feel that it's fair, you know, why would you take everything? You know, let's say you're making a deal, you split 50-50, and let's just say you ask for 80-20, and then they give you 80. And sure, it's a great deal, but like, is that how, is it the philosophy you want to live in life, is taking 80 and giving them 20 in every situation? You know, it's you don't want to do that, you know, it's just, you just learn that the more you take, you know, the more selfish you are, you actually lose, you know? So it's not even really about trying to win an argument. It's really about trying to come to a mutual understanding of what's going on. I know that certain situations are more complicated than others, you know, like with what's going on in the world right now with, you know, Donald Trump, and, you know, people feel about racism and what's going on in, you know, other parts of the country. But like, you know, people, it's, like, what makes that so complicated is there's just so many people involved, right? And so many different opinions, different extremes, and you just can't even really, like, when it's two people, it's simpler, right? You know, not easier, just, I mean, I guess easier and simpler. But when you have groups of people, you have too many talking heads, too many people fighting. And when you have two people, you can take the point and choice yourself and just say, you don't say this to them. You just, you say this to yourself. You say it to yourself, I'm going to let you be right. You know, I'm going to let you be right. You can just try that. Because if you're able to do that, you can go a long way with having them listen to you. Because if you take an opposing view and you try to fight them, or fight an argument, or negatively debate, you know, somebody, it makes people fight harder, right? Like, so the more it's almost like don't eat this, don't do this exercise, don't drink water, don't touch your face, don't do deadlifts, don't do squats, don't work out, don't get a personal trainer, don't get a job, don't go to college. You know, when you say these things, it almost makes people want to do them, right? It's kind of, I don't know, our freedom that we want, right? But if you agree with somebody and you let them do it, or you promote that it's okay for them to do it, you actually have a chance for them to hear what you have to say about why they shouldn't do it. You know, I mean, to some extent that might sound manipulative, but it's not really about being manipulative or, sleazy. It's just really about being heard, because that's the hardest part. Because when you take an opposing view and you have to be righteous about what you believe and what they should do, they're not going to even listen. And even if your intent is to be right in your position and you stand in your ground on the opposite side of them, they will not hear you, because the intent is an energy in itself. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I really believe that. You can feel people's intent. Like if you're watching my video, you're 15 minutes in, or you're listening to me, you can tell that my energy is sincere. I'm not trying to pretend to be anybody else. This is not scripted. I think that's the reason why you listen or watch certain videos, assuming they're not ridiculously entertaining. Just generally these videos like these, there's a certain amount of authenticity in it. And that is something that we are always looking for. We're looking for authenticity. And that's kind of all I wanted. And that's actually a subject for another video. I may forget this, and if you're this far into the video, you need to remind me. I want to talk about authenticity, because authenticity, like being bold or blunt or honest on a regular basis, is not a very effective way of being heard. Even though you're being truthful, it's still your truth. And it's often very cruel sometimes, or I should speak for myself. I'm often very cruel. It's because I'm very hard on myself sometimes. And I guess we'll save that for another video. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Gone long enough. It's time to work. It is a Tuesday. It's 8:56 a.m., 8/22/2017. I think this video is going to go up right away. It depends, because I want to put a thumbnail on it. So it might go up 2 days later. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.